Welcome to the Monday, July 25th Board of Selectmen meetings. We have our recording secretary, Kelly Biggos, our town manager, Tom Wooden, and Selectmen Trish Warren, Wendy Wolf, myself, Denise Griffin, Mike Tomko, and Russ Hoffman. So let's move right into town manager announcements. Tom, what do you have for us tonight?
Thank you. The thing that I have tonight is sort of a basketball court update. I've been keeping you informed via email, and I sent some stuff out today from Steve Roberge, who's an engineer that's laying out the schematics of where the tennis courts go and so on and so forth. But the reason I bring it up tonight is that what Steve found as he was laying out the area was that the design that the board agreed on, having it sort of kitty corner, interferes with the goalpost area of the football field, and he recommends putting them parallel to the street as the previous tennis courts were. So today I printed off his drawings for you that shows the schematics of that, and he's at the point now where he's ready to just sign off on a stormwater evaluation, and at that point I think we're very close to having all the materials ready for the DEP permitting. One of the things that Lauren Stockwell and I have talked about is that this may have to go before the planning board too before we continue, because it's a paved surface, so that's considered a structure. So I'm not thinking this is going to go through particularly quickly. So just to keep you posted, what Steve wanted from me was to have the board review just the positioning of the two courts and get some feedback on whether that was acceptable or not. So that's why I bring that up.
It looks fine to me. And, you know, perhaps it's just worth mentioning for people watching the Selectmen meeting that because this is sort of it goes into wetland or sort of drainage areas, that it requires this sort of permitting and setbacks and things like that. So one might think it would be easy to just level it and put a tennis court on, and unfortunately the nature of the land is such that this required permitting.
Right.
So I'm sure if I were in the audience I'd be wondering why it's taking so long. So
Yeah. And also Lauren and I have talked that if this does require planning board approval, which I assume it will, she'll assist with that as well. So
great.
We seem to have most of our ducks in a row here and progressing fairly well. I've also sent out in the last few weeks Don Layton's proposals for flora and fauna and trees and so forth. I didn't include that tonight because this was really just a conversation of the positioning of the courts. But if the board could vote on either accepting or not accepting this evening, that would keep the process hopefully going.
Yeah, it looks fine to me too, Tom. I guess I'm left wondering how we missed that close proximity to the goalpost last time when we...
Well, I can sort of answer that.
Looked at it.
I mean, when Chris and I went down there first and came up with just a concept of how these were laid out, it was this way, because we had gone out and measured and so on and so forth how that would go.
Yeah.
When there were conceptual sketches done of it, they weren't to scale. They were more...
They were sort of artsy and cartoony.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So they didn't have the actual measurements on them. And once Steve got putting these into actual dimensions and so forth,
Yeah.
that layout didn't
But
fit.
the goalpost isn't on there, so we had no visibility of it in that drawing.
Right. On the page that you have on top, you can see there's a dotted line there that shows where the original plan was, if it was going to be going kitty corner.
Yeah,
And you can see that goes right up even to the goalposts.
I see. Yeah.
So it was encroaching on the school field.
And we've got enough clearance to the drainage area?
Yes.
Because it is quite a bit closer.
Well, the buffer that we needed there, we had a lot of extra room when it was in its kitty corner position.
Right.
And now we still have enough room that
Still
meets
have
the
enough.
requirement. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'd just like to mention a couple things. I saw late afternoon, there was an email from Lauren Stockwell, Lauren Stockwell, and she recommended that Steve file the plan with the landscaping and the parking lot things with the state DEP because
It's part of the
It-
runoff.
it's
They like
part
the
of
whole
it.
concept, yeah.
right, it's the whole
Yeah.
concept,
Yep.
and even if we implement this in phases, it's my understanding that once the state approves it, we have, I don't know what it is, 5 to 7 years, you might want to find out about that, how long we have to actually implement things, but we don't have to do it within a year,
No.
my understanding. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I still think it's really important that we really talk about, and even if we don't do the landscaping all at once, that we at least actually implement that, what was originally called the berm area or whatever by the parking lot, that will be,
Phase
and
one.
like prepare it for
Mhm.
landscaping. Because I don't want to start this project and then have it kind of be forgotten and never get to it, because that was really part of the beautification, and that was what I really felt, at least for me personally, that was my hot button. I really wanted this area to be improved. And the person who made the original motion actually happens to be sitting in the audience. So I'll give Mr. Hamblin an opportunity in case you want to say anything relative to this change.
I've only seen that plan on a little tiny screen, so it's a little hard for me to tell. But how wide is the green space between the road and the parking lot, and how many parking spaces are shown on there?
There are 36, I believe, over there now. This will go down to 28 for parking spaces.
Okay,
And that raised sidewalk area that's there now, I believe is 11 feet across.
yeah, that's not going to cut it.
Well, we're going to extend it into the parking lot some.
Right.
Go away from the road.
Well, does that plan show that? That's my question.
Yes.
Does this plan show what?
It says, remove pavement, create landscape berm.
And this is such a small scale, I can't read it, to be honest with you. So-
Yeah,
This says 35 parking spaces.
Come up and take my copy.
yeah, I believe this drawing of the parking lot is not what we passed. And
Right,
it,
this
and in
we passed
fact,
that.
is not compliant with the current codes of Boothbay Harbor. So I would hate to file this and then
Right,
have to go back and fix it
sure.
because it's not the right parking lot drawing. Because this shows the original 30,
That's-
35
That was your motion.
parking spots, and we all agreed that we were going to go down
Right.
to this plan, which
Well,
was,
Don Layton's plan, which is the vegetation plan, shows the correct amount.
yeah.
Yeah, this one here is, I believe, just for positioning of the courts and for
I
stormwater.
I got no problem with repositioning the courts, I think that's fine, I think that was within the intent. But I would have a problem with filing this, because the parking
Yeah,
lot's
we need to,
not right.
right, we need to
Yeah.
file it accurately.
I mean, I think
So-
we're also a month anyway away from filing at most.
Yeah.
Because we'd have to go before planning board and
Oh, good,
sort that all out. So
Yeah.
okay,
this isn't gonna be done right away.
good, because we want to do it right.
So I would suggest that your motion should be, we accept the repositioning of the courts,
That's all I'm
and not mention that you're implying acceptance of this drawing.
Yeah, that's all he's looking for.
And we're all aware that the pickleball court size has increased due to the, what was it, requirement or thought about adding drainage?
Yeah, he's also changed the dimensions somewhat of the basketball court just to give some out-of-bounds area, rather than have the court just end. But we had the space available to do that, so that didn't seem to make any substantial change to it.
it feels like a lot of paved, a lot of hardscapes. So that's why I would agree with Denise that anything we can do to increase, or to make sure we have vegetation and buffering is a high priority for me personally.
And that's part of the redesign of the parking lot, is to add more green space, add the bolsters on the side, to add more green space to that, and to make it compliant with our current codes.
The codes, right.
I think we're all on the same page.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I'll
So,
make a
just-
motion to approve the repositioning of the pickleball and the basketball court as depicted in the diagram.
Second,
okay.
one more question.
Yeah, and more discussion.
So, whose job is it to get the sketch updated?
Well, we've got 3 people working on it at the same time. We've got Lauren, who's overseeing the whole process. We have Don Layton, who's done the vegetation plans, which actually shows the parking lot correctly.
Yeah.
Steve Roberge took this basically because it was in digital form and he could work with it. And so the parking lot is not accurate on here. But as far as what he needs to do, his stormwater calculation, as far as impervious surface and so forth, this worked for him. But to answer your question, when we get to the point where we're going to follow the application, we're going to have the documents all the same and all completely accurate. So,
Right.
All right,
yeah.
so you'll work with those folks to come up with the proper diagram, and then the proper diagram will go to the planning board.
Yeah, we're talking about this a lot every day, so we'll get there.
I bet you.
So will it come back to the selectmen, or that's it? It's the planning board will get the final review and approval, or?
We can do whatever you want. We've got the flexibility to do anything you want.
Well, we meet twice a month, so I think when you have the final.
I don't think we're going to break ground by this fall, so I don't think.
Okay.
So that's my next question. What is your best guess of
Well-
when this would be finished?
I mean, the next step is when we go through the budget process in December, January, February, March, we're going to have to raise some more money because the cost estimates are over what we've set aside already. I think we've set aside roughly $30,000, and I think our total cost estimates, which may be a little high because we don't have to do all the plantings, but I think that was $58,000. So we've got to put some more money ahead for that. My plan would be to start with like what you're talking about, the side of the road, the vegetation, making the side of the road look pretty, and get to the courts afterwards, but at least make that corridor look nice to start with. And I think that's most likely it's going to be spring. Because I think with all the things Public Works has to do and preparing for the winter event here and so forth and plowing this winter, so I don't think we're going to get this going this fall. I'd love to, but I think it's kind of optimistic.
It's probably realistic.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. All right, I think we have to vote on the motion, unless there are other questions or comments.
Ready?
Ready? Okay, all in favor? Thanks.
Thank you.
Great.
That's all I have.
Okay, great. Do we have any selectmen reports about economic development? Anything else?
So, go ahead, Winnie.
Well, just briefly, I think most everyone knew that there was a story in solicitation soliciting input from the town and readers in the Register on the naming for the winter event. That's been collected, and the marketing subgroup is reviewing all the responses. We had a lot of people weigh in, some with their own suggestions, and a lot of people picking some of the favorite naming titles that were suggested. I don't know when they're going to announce the final name for the sort of branding of the winter event. But it was fun to participate in that, and I think it really ginned up a lot of general interest and support from residents and businesses. We also had a first meeting of the wayfinding group, and expanded our group to invite a few additional members, particularly inviting Ted Huger from Edgecombe to join us so that we have Southport, Boothbay Harbor, and Edgecombe focusing on the wayfinding. And Ted has accepted that invitation, and we've extended the invitation to a few others, including Mike Tomko, since Mike spearheaded the branding work that was going on with the peninsula, and that'll be very informative for the designers that we engaged to do the plan for the signage and wayfinding. So those are sort of the limited updates.
Great, thank you. Russ?
So from the ambulance service, the big event there was the groundbreaking ceremony yesterday afternoon at the, in the parking lot, but near the site of the new ambulance building. And Robbie Ham did a nice job introducing the project, explaining the size of the building, and he had a couple of interesting statistics. One of which was that the ambulance service had 64 calls in the first 9 days of July this year. So they're definitely into their busy season, and nearly 1,000 calls in the first half of this year. So plenty of activity there. Paul Coulomb was also there and said a few words to the small crowd that was gathered. The event was combined with a picnic, a recognition and thank you, appreciation picnic for the ambulance service employees, and there were about, I would say, half a dozen or so of them there, most of the folks that were on call at the time, but it was great to say hello and express appreciation for all that they do. So we can look forward to things getting underway down there, and I think by November we would like to be moving into that facility. So that's going to happen pretty quick once they get going.
Good.
Wow, amazing. Great, thank you for the update. Julia, financials.
Okay, you have before you your revenue and expense sheets. Total revenue year-to-date, $71,391.23. Total expenses year-to-date, $358,929.85. As you can see, these are the few months here before our taxes are committed that the expenses are definitely larger than the revenue until we've committed the taxes. And I think we're committing them the beginning of August. They've been working on the personal
I think
property
Rob
right now.
is going to be down here by the end of the week, so hopefully we'll have them committed within the next week.
Within the next week, so
Yep.
I think we will. And total accounts payable is $247,576.97. The bank balance is $1,859,675.70. Did anyone have any questions on the revenue and expenses?
Is that about normal for
We
the
are.
revenue and the expenses to
It
be
is.
so out of balance at this time of
It
year?
is. Currently, right now, July and until we actually commit the taxes,
Yeah.
we're on target.
Makes sense. Okay.
The expenses, it's because we have like the monthly school bill of 200,000+, so
Yeah.
the expenses wouldn't be so high except for what we need to pay monthly.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so
So I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes to the July 11th meeting.
Yes, I moved them. I had a few minor corrections, so I'll move them as corrected, yeah.
I'll second.
Great, all in favor? Yeah, you weren't there.
Can I just ask, did we get Tom's name spelled correctly? Was that one of your corrections?
Was it misspelled? Did I miss that?
I'm sure we can.
Oh, I see it, yeah, down at the bottom, yeah.
Oh, yeah, whoops. Manager Wooding,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
guy.
As corrected, as
Oh, yeah, that's the new guy.
been here 9 years, I don't even know who I am. Yeah.
Okay, moving on, we have one liquor license to consider approving tonight. It's for Fisherman's Wharf Inn. The police chief has initialed it.
I move that we approve that license application.
I'll second.
Okay, so, do I have any discussion or any comments from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, that is approved. All right. On our agenda, we don't have any old business or new business listed here today.
I think we have, well, we do have some new business.
Okay,
Well, I just wanted to bring up that, I think Jeff had provided these for me.
I have one.
okay.
Thank you.
I received a few questions and complaints about the yard sale that seems to be a more continuous yard sale that's on Townsend Avenue. And I believe, Mike, you also received a call. I wasn't sure if we had ordinances, so I asked Jeff to look into that in terms of whether we had things sort of providing guidance for the length of time one can have a yard sale or the parameters around that. Jeff's reading of our code is that we didn't, however, he provided tonight some examples. This one that we have in front of us is, I think, from a town in Pennsylvania that has some code ordinances that might be helpful in terms of the parameters around how long one can have a yard sale or a garage sale, the sort of number of times, the type of permitting, etc. And I just wanted to bring it up. It may be something for us to discuss, and I would assume that this is within the purview of the selectmen to talk about this and not any of the other groups. Is that correct? Or would it be a
I
planning
would
board?
think
I
you
don't know.
pass it to the planning board and ask the planning board to make a recommendation.
Right. I mean, we can certainly discuss it, but I
Sure.
think it would be helpful if we have suggestions or opinions to pass them on. And since we have the planning board chair here today,
Vice Chair.
Vice Chair.
vice chair, excuse me, will, very easy to
I-
have and take any comments back.
If I may, I think you do have some tools on hand, should you want to pursue them. Somebody had alerted me to this, and I took a look at our codes, and there is a license required for peddling and soliciting, and there is some implication about time scale, to address your issue, Wendy,
Yeah.
in this, and that it talks about a license for a year of $500 or a 10-day license for $100, which seems to indicate to me that there's some activity that's going on for 10 days in town, perhaps needs to be licensed, and you might inquire whether this operation has such a license or not.
Well, that's very helpful. Thank
You know, the statute says, no person shall hawk or peddle goods, wares, or merchandise at retail within the town without a license therefore. It should be construed to mean include all persons, both principals and agents, who engage in temporary or transient business in this town, either in one locality or traveling from place to place, selling goods, wares, merchandise, and who, for the purposes of carrying on such business, hire, lease, or occupy any property, building, or structure for the exhibition and sale of goods, wares, and merchandise, who sell goods, wares, and merchandise at retail from a car, wagon, or other conveyance, steamer, or vessel. A continuous yard sale strikes me as being a business in town and should have a license.
Well, if that's the case, then I think that's a discussion that the code's enforcement officer.
And that's in your court, yeah.
Yeah. I think the other interesting thing that maybe might be worth some discussion, is would the planning board want to, at some point, over the fall or winter, have a conversation, and certainly, I think, Jeff might have some input and, on this, but would it make sense to think about having our ordinance be more similar to the town of Boothbay's?
No. And I certainly agree that we ought to take a look at yard sales, because they're a big activity, and I suspect the same thing Jeff did, is I took our codes and I searched for yard sales, and there is nothing there, absolutely nothing. So having something that addresses that, if it's only a definition, I can conceive of having a definition that says if somebody offers sales of goods for a duration of 2 days, you know, that falls below some threshold, and have at it and have fun. But if it's going to run for 10 days, then you need to do something about it. Right now, we don't have that.
I think the verbiage should also include estate sale, because it's got a sign that it says estate sale too.
Yeah.
Yes,
Put it on the same.
the sample,
There are all sorts of words for it, garage sale, estate sale, flea market.
Yeah,
Right.
you
Just so we
could
make it clear.
lump those together, yeah.
Lump them together.
Yeah, try and get away from using those words and go to a definition.
Right.
Yeah.
yes, this sample ordinance does that. It says it includes garage sale, yard sale, tag sale, porch sale, lawn sale, attic sale, basement sale, rummage sale, flea market sale, or any similar casual sale of tangible
There you go,
property, which
yeah.
I think is inclusive
Yeah.
enough, so.
So I'll try and put that on a tickler list for us to consider at some point in the near future.
Okay.
That'd be great, because I think that would just help provide some guidance and some reasonable limits. We don't want to limit people from having a casual yard sale. That's a fun summer activity, but when it extends on and on and on, that's a different entity altogether.
Bill, I've done some research as well, and I can forward to you the information
That would be great.
that I have. As Denise referenced, Town of Boothbay has loosely defines a garage sale as something of a limited time frame, where something longer than that, they call it a flea market or a tent sale, and that has definable limits. Damascotta does not have anything other than talking about the signs of sizes and the size of signs in the right-of-way, and then Wiscasset is similar. But we talk about working together with Boothbay. I think that's a great example. I can send that to you, as well as verbiage that a few others have sent to me, neighbors that have been concerned.
Yeah, yes. Let's not differentiate tent sale, because I believe there's a little tent under the yard sale. So
Yeah.
let me give you a copy of this, Bill.
Sure.
Okay.
So in the
So,
meantime,
just some
are we
examples.
asking
Thanks,
Tom to ask Jeff to follow up?
I'll have a look at the Hunter Peddler's part of it, see if
Yeah.
it pertains.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be
Yeah, I
great.
think that'd
Thank
be,
you.
I mean, that probably won't stop it, but it might require them to pay some money. Yeah,
right, we're,
Okay.
that might stop it. Yeah,
That's- people need to operate within our ordinances, you know. Any one of us may not like an ordinance or two, but that's too bad.
Right.
We have to have people abide by them. So, okay, great, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, any other new business before I go to, well, I guess we're gonna call it public forum, but I think Bill has some kind of semi-old business to bring up with us.
I do.
The floor is all
You're on.
yours.
All right, so at the last planning board meeting, I was asked to get a sense of the select board on the issue of adopting the new shoreline zoning rules that have been promulgated by the state. And you may recall that the state has issued a complete new rework of the shoreline zoning. I say new rework, it is mostly very similar to the current one, but it is different in some important ways. But there is no mandate or requirement that the town adopt those rules by any specific date. It just says, here they are, and we'd like you to adopt them, but as I said, there is no mandate. And as we have begun to look into that and to see which parts of the rule that we think we should adopt and perhaps which parts we should not, there's been some differing interpretations about exactly what must be adopted. And to greatly simplify a bunch of back and forths and knowledge, exchanges, the planning board, with the exception of one member, has felt that we should retain our existing rules on expanding pre-existing non-conforming structures within 75 feet. And those rules basically say that if you have a structure that has not been previously expanded, you can expand by 30% in either floor area or volume, whichever is most restrictive. And we've had that for some number of years, since I think about 1989. So people are kind of used to it. The state rules are somewhat different from that and somewhat more lenient in some areas and somewhat more restrictive in others. And we don't have to get into that. So we asked our town lawyer about what it would take to implement most of these new state rules, but to keep our existing rules. And the town lawyer felt we might be leaving ourselves open for a lawsuit if we did not adopt the entire new DEP rules. However, our DEP representative has stated that we certainly have the right to retain our current rules and that DEP would not challenge us if we were to do so. So we've got a little bit of...
It's very gray.
Yeah,
Scales of
it's very
justice,
gray.
yeah.
Very gray.
It is very gray. And Jeff is, I think, also trying to get an opinion from MMA as sort of a third independent party as to how they might feel for this. Well, I'll get into my personal opinion in a few minutes. But there may be some value in waiting to see this resolved somewhat more, either by what other towns do, or if there is a court case that resolves this, although the likelihood of a court case, I think, is fairly remote. Or the legislature may pass a mandate and say this has been kicking around long enough, you got to do it. But that hasn't happened yet. So it is the planning board's understanding that the town had wanted to hold a special town meeting this fall or in some reasonable time frame at some point to adopt or not whatever the new shorelands rules that make it through our respective boards. And again, the process is the planning board will come up with a set of recommended rules and then pass them to the select board. The select board will hold public hearings on that and then determine what goes on the warrant for the special town meeting. So I think the question to you, or the key question in my mind to you, is how committed are you to resolving this either this fall or could we wait some more while some of these things hash out? And while we're waiting, we would operate under our current bylaws, which the vast majority of the planning board thinks are the ones that we should retain, at least with regard to expanding pre-existing non-conforming use. A lot of the other changes are clarifications of definitions and things that really don't change the tenor of the shoreline zone. So that's my first question.
Well, I guess my current thinking is that I think we can probably wait. I will say that I think weren't there there was a public hearing that was held, but it got the date got changed and it wasn't really widely publicized, so.
I think that night there was, 1,000 people here or so.
Yeah, and you know, Jeff sent out a letter when this first, almost a year ago now, to all the shoreline owners and said, hey, this is coming down the pike. But it's been a long time and the interest has not been in the front of everybody's mind.
Right.
We've had one applicant who is hoping that the new rules are adopted because it would allow them to do what they want to do, where our current laws would be a little bit more restrictive.
And I can't speak for Jeff, but I think Jeff's sort of between a rock and a hard place at the moment as far as applications coming in, which rules are we going by? And so that would be helpful to us.
No, I think we're clear about what rules we're going by right now. I think Jeff's in a hard place about, I'm not sure he feels strongly about one way or the other, although he has said publicly in our meetings that he would prefer that we carry on our existing rules. One rationale the state gave was that these new rules would be easier to enforce because they go to footprint, not area and volume. And Jeff's comment, and my feeling as well, is we really haven't had a problem calculating area and volume. It seems to be within our tool set. And we've been doing it for a long time, and therefore we didn't see the difficulty that the state was attempting to respond to.
So Bill, what does the new rules say about that 30%?
The new rule, as I said, says footprint. You can expand 30% of your footprint.
So area.
Area only,
No.
except it calls out structures that are closer than 25 feet to the shore and makes those more restrictive. And we have a number of structures that are right hard on the shore. And so, and in fact, the planning board just approved an expansion at our last meeting that I believe would not have been permitted under the state's new rule. So as I said, it's more lenient in one regard in that you can add more volume than 30%. If you can do it within your footprint. You could put on a whole second story, for example, and as long as you're under the height restriction, that would be okay. But it is more restrictive for those people who have structures that are very close to the water, and it has a set of cascading rules for people who are within 25 feet and 50 feet, and height restrictions as you go back from the water.
Okay.
So it's not a clear yay or nay on this.
So Bill, it sounds like the planning board, with the perhaps one exception, has not had a hue and cry from the residents here to move to a different system than what we currently have.
Correct. We have had one applicant who would like to move to the new system because it would enable them to do what their plans are.
Okay.
But other than that, we have not had much public response, and we really need to drum up some more interest and some more public response, which we will do through additional public hearings, and you guys will have a public hearing, and there is a process for doing that. But my personal feeling is that since it is not mandated, since the current rules seem to be working well for Boothbay Harbor, I don't see a particular rush if we can get some more information. And more information to me, I think, comes from two places. One is external information. Will the MMA lawyer have a different spin than our lawyer? Will other towns adopt this and say, yeah, it's working great and we haven't had any trouble, or will they have some difficulties? And the second source of information would be internal. We can do a survey. It won't be absolutely complete, but we could do a rough survey of how many structures we have that might be impacted by this change, to see if this one application represents the tip of the iceberg, or is it an isolated case. I think it's the latter. I think we have many more residential homes that are very close than commercial operations that would want to expand.
Right.
And that haven't already used up their 30%. These expansions are a once in a lifetime effect. Once you have expanded within the shoreline zone, you're done.
So, Bill, is there any possibility the entity that would like to use the newer regulations, is there any capacity within the current rules for things like variances or whatever that might allow the entity who wants the new rules to
I understand
proceed?
your question.
I'm just curious, there's only one case.
You're not allowed to give variances on the 30%. That's just, you can't.
Okay.
I think my personal feeling, and this is my personal feeling, and I think it's shared by some of the planning board, but not necessarily all, I think there are some creative things that could be done in trading off existing buildings that are going to get demolished, and then you can use that area and volume and bring it over to another building. And I think they could accomplish much of what they want to accomplish. I don't think they could accomplish all of what they want to accomplish. I think they would, their final result under the new rules would in fact be a smaller building. Under the old rules would be a smaller building than what they could do under the new rules. I think that's probably true, but I don't think it's forbidden under the current rules. I just think it would have to be a little bit smaller. And I don't think anybody's worked through those numbers.
All right, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Bill, I like the idea of the internal polling or research being done, looking at maybe a few key structures.
Yeah.
And see how would an expansion in either of those shake out in one direction or another. I know our comp plan talks about economic development and possibilities, so maybe that would give us a bit more clarity as to whether this was good to adopt or
Yeah, and that's the argument of the planning board member who favors going to the new rules, is he believes it would stir economic development more. Because of the 25-foot rule, I don't personally believe that it would. I don't think we have that many cases in town, but it's a knowable thing. We could do that research and try and come to an answer to that question.
And actually, to me, as a homeowner, I would actually find that plan a bit more restrictive, only because it requires you to make sure where the 25-foot and then the 50-foot setback are. And the plans that we receive are already detailed. To add that additional line of detail and then split and calculations.
Yeah, it
Does tend to muddy the waters even more.
Yeah, and I must say, I'm not hard over on this. I think our current rules would be better, but I don't think they are vastly better than the new state rules. I'm not hard over, I just think they're slightly better. And part of my thinking for that, my personal thinking for that, is because I think consistency has some value, and I hate to be changing the rules that people have become used to. I don't know how many homeowners are out there saying, yeah, someday I'm gonna add on my 30%, and then you change the rules on them and they can't. That's not a good situation.
Right. And that gets back to like my point in that, if we, I think another reason for postponing making the decision is that I just think it needs lots more publication
Yes.
and more.
Yes, we
public
agree,
hearings.
we agree entirely.
So I'm okay with waiting.
Okay,
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
thank you.
So,
Okay.
are we good? Are we good? Yeah.
We will keep you posted.
Okay,
Sense.
great.
Now, on to the yard sales.
All right. Any other public forum items tonight? No? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the warrants.
So
upon
moved.
review. Yes. And second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, warrants are passed. Okay, does anybody feel the need for an executive session tonight? I don't think we were planning one. No? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Great. Thank you all.